Good evening, everybody. Enter the stars. And thanks to you guys who could make it out this evening. Quite frankly, tonight, we're going to be covering some things that you've actually never heard before. Now, I did a lot of research into the fallen angel incursion at the summit of Mount Hermon. And I was shocked that there was additional revelations just left laying around, things that really no one else had considered to this point. And this is kind of what happens when you dig deep into these things to try to find the truth. Now, as you guys gather in, I do want to mention that the devil has counterfeited many of the holy things to try to be like the Most High. And he does this because he understands that there's power in this, in deceiving us. So what you're going to see tonight, based on what we've uncovered, is overlays with some of God's creation in this incursion that came down at the summit of Mount Hermon. Now, what I found was unbelievable. I was actually shocked, again, that these discoveries had not been made yet. We're going to get into some of these things. Now, what am I talking about? Well, God is a God of math, and the devil has counterfeited the Most High's math in this incursion at the summit of Mount Hermon, in its location, as well as some of the other things and facts surrounding this. So I appreciate that you guys could all make it out tonight. I'll give a couple of shout outs and then we'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is unbelievable. I've got some notes pulled up over here so we can get into this. Now, this is Mount Hermon. And as you can see, it is at the 33rd degree north latitude. Now, that in of itself is not a synchronicity. But when you begin to factor in some of these other facts surrounding this location and this site, where the book of Enoch says that the fallen angels came down, then you begin to see the whole picture emerge. Now, what did Enoch say about Mount Hermon? Well, he said that 200 came down at the summit of Mount Hermon and that they were fallen angels. And there were 20 of them that were leaders. So each of these leaders most likely had 10 angels beneath them. So we have 20, a 10, and a 200. Well, interesting enough, when I began to look at the mathematics surrounding the number 200, Wikipedia said this is the smallest base 10 unprimable number. It cannot be turned into a prime number by changing just one of its digits to any other digit. So here you have your 10 leaders, you have 200 total fallen angels, and all of them had to swear an oath. They were all mutually implicated. In other words, they all promised each other, and not one of them changed their digit, so to speak. So mathematically already we have a strange synchronicity, okay? Numbers just don't divide up like this. So here they came down at the summit of Mount Hermon. Now, I got a picture of Mount Hermon pulled up, and this is unbelievable. There is a temple here. It's at the summit of Mount Hermon here, was what you're looking at. And the temple is called Qasr Antar. We're going to dig into this temple. And interestingly enough, nowhere on the internet is the exact geographical location of this temple found anywhere. In other words, we're looking at the summit, but amongst the rock and the snow, we will never know exactly where this temple is because nowhere is the exact coordinate given. Now, what you're looking at here is the highest UN base in the world. It is at the summit of Mount Hermon, is what you're looking at. I also want you to notice this shape of the road, which is done on purpose. And we're going to get into that as well. I'm going to show you visuals. Those of you that were fortunate enough to make the show tonight, you're in for a treat, because again, we're going to discuss things that have never been discovered with regards to these fallen angels. Hopefully our broadcast is not interrupted, which it has been in the past. So I dug really deep and I actually found a layout, a floor plan of this temple. And what makes this temple so important? Let's take a look. This temple is actually the highest in the world. Here's the name, Qasr Antar. There's a sacred building made of hewn blocks of stone on the summit of Mount Hermon, known as Qasr Antar. It is the highest temple of the ancient world. Now that's really important. And for there not to be a GPS coordinate of this highest temple of the ancient world is very suspect and suspicious. It was documented by Sir Charles Warren in 1869. Warren described the temple as a rectangular building sitting on an oval stone plateau without roof. He removed a limestone stele from the northwest of the oval. Basically, this is like a sign, but it's made out of stone. He broke it in two pieces and carried it down the mountain and back to the British Museum, where it currently resides. An inscription on the stele was translated by George Nicholsburg to read, "According to the command of the greatest and holy God, those who take an oath proceed from here." Nicholsburg connected the inscription with oath taken by the angels under Samjaza, who took an oath together, bound by a curse in order to take wives in the book of Enoch. And this is exactly what we were just talking about. So this discovery confirms that this is in fact the location where the fallen angels came down. Hermon was said to have become known as the Mountain of Oath by Charles Simon Claremont Ganneau. The name of God was supposed to be a Hellenized version of Baal. So here's your Baal worship again. And this is why we're seeing this arch-shaped road at the summit of Mount Hermon. But this goes deeper, and I'm going to show you what the arch most likely represents. This is going to blow you away. So this is it. Here's Pan. They've got Pan here. Pan, the Greek god of sex, orgies, and everything else. He was half goat. He was a horned god. At the foot of Mount Hermon is the temple of Pan, and we covered that in a previous video. All of this is connected, you guys. All of it. Now, let me go back in the chat. Make sure we're still connected. Thanks you guys all for coming out. Let's keep going with this while we have a connection. This is Qasr Antar. This is the highest temple in the ancient world, sitting at the summit of Mount Hermon. Now, you would not even believe the lengths that I had to go to find this simple floor plan. And for many of you with eyes to see, you know what you're looking at. Now, I translated this text from this article. This was actually the floor plan drawn by Sir Charles Warren, the guy who found the stele, that found the sign that said that these fallen angels came at this site. And so I'm reading this, and it's in French, so I had to translate it to see what all this says. This says the floor plan of the sanctuary. This says drawing by Warren. Let's take a look at the translation. It says here, this is more of a description. Jerome mentions the high place that crowns Mount Hermon at 2,814 meter altitude on the site of Qasr Antar. From Rakaya al-Qaeda to the west, from Bahar to the east, the ascent to the site lasts at least 6 hours. The sanctuary occupies a natural terrace around a rocky cone dug in its center. It consists of an oval enclosure made of blocks of large apparatus carefully erected. A small temple open to the east rises to the southwest of the temenos. A cave is to the northeast of the sanctuary. The Greek inscription discovered to the northwest of the parabola, indicates that the high place is devoted to a god, qualified as a very great and saint. The name text suggests that the access to the site is reserved for the faithful who take the oath. Qasr Antar. This is it. We found it. I looked everywhere, and this is like the only image on the entire internet. Now, what you're going to see in the second part of this show is unbelievable, because we're going to superimpose this over what I believe they're trying to depict here. Now, this is the vesica Pisces. And when we think about the golden ratio, the golden spiral, we understand that that fits into the vesica Pisces. Here's the depiction right here. Casey, why are you talking about the vesica Pisces in relationship to this? Because what you're looking at here is the 33rd parallel. Let's take a look at this image here. Remember, they came down at the 33rd parallel. Here we have the mathematics of the vesica Pisces. I just showed you also the golden ratio, the golden spiral emanating out from this image here. This is the golden ratio, but it gets more exact, because we saw at the site that the vesica Pisces is formed by the road. This is the center of the vesica Pisces. It's also the arch of Baal. Now let's take this a step deeper. So we've got the spiral. We've got the mathematics of the threes. The square root of 3 is what they're showing us here in some of these angles. We've also got the 33. What is the 33? It is CC. So let's pull this up here. When you look at the vesica Pisces arch, this is probably a good image for us to look at right here. You have this arch. This is the arch of Baal, and this matches this, the road going into the UN. Let's minimize this. This is exactly what they were hiding in plain sight. There it is. Here's the side by side. What else links this site to the vesica Pisces other than the golden ratio of the actual site, and which is this shape, right? This shape, the golden ratio. And we also have the actual site with the vesica Pisces in it. Let's see, let's pull this up here. Well, there's more, because you have C and C facing each other. This is the C and the C. And now in Roman numerals, 200, the number 200 is depicted as a C and a C. And 200 angels came down at this location. Okay. So we had 200 angels coming down at this location, which is C and C. Now, Chanel actually depicts this. When you look at the Chanel, let's see, did I close that? Let's see if we can find this. Let's put in CC vesica Pisces. Actually depict this. And so now we begin to see that the two C's together, this is the logo for Coco Chanel. They're showing you the vesica Pisces here. Okay, there it is right there, the two C's. And we also see that when you have two C's facing each other, and when you put them end to end, you have CC, which is 200. But CC is also 33. Why? Because alphanumerically, the letter C is in fact a number 3. So now you have 33. Now, this is interesting because we also know that exactly 1/3 of the angels fell from heaven. There was war in heaven, and 1/3 of the angels fell from heaven. Well, how much is 1/3? 1/3 is exactly 33.33333% into infinity. So now we have another synchronicity. We have the location at the 33rd north parallel. I'm going to do a quick recap. We have the CC, the vesica Pisces, which is also stands for 200 in Roman numerals. CC is alphanumerically 33. So the question becomes, is this event of where these 200 angels came down, is this one and the same event of 1/3 of the angels being thrown down from heaven? Is it an event related to the 1/3 of the angels? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just showing you the synchronicities of how they're similar and how all of this fits in mathematically. Now, the Bible refers to multitudes of people or things as grains of sand. So don't you think it's interesting that the word thousand has the word sand in it? Thou sand. And the word grand, which also means 1,000, kind of sounds like a grain of sand. And when we look at sand, we see points of light. We see what appears to be like galaxies and stars in the actual makeup of microscopic pieces of sand. Now, the Bible mentions sand and stars in the same sentence. Sand, stars, Bible. And we're going to look at some microscopic pieces of sand as well. Here it is here, Genesis 22:17. I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand and the seashore. So why would God talk about the sand and the stars in the same sentence? I'm going to show you why. Sand under a microscope. This is unbelievable because these microscopic images of sand look a lot like the stars and galaxies in the sky. Do they not? Many of them with spirals, just like the spiral galaxies, with different colors. He knows. Now we're talking about mathematics. We're jumping around a bit here. But what I want you guys to understand is there's a lot more to these fallen angels coming to earth than we're told. There's so much more to this. And it is okay to dig deep and try to find additional answers to some of this stuff. Now, what else do we have here? I was looking into other references to the number 33. And what I discovered was that there are, in fact, 33 vertebrae in your back. But that's only if you count the bones of the coccyx, which is the very bottom of your spine, if you count the 5 bones separately. If you don't count the 5 bones separately, then you have 28 bones in your back plus the 1, so you have 29. Now, this 28 number comes up often, okay? Jesus said there were 14 generations between Abraham and David, and then 14 more generations from David to the crucifixion of Christ. That's 28 total generations. I think I got that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so this means something. This is number 28. We also saw that the World Trade Center stood for 28 total years. And at exactly the halfway point, the 14th year, almost as if they knew that it was only going to last 28 years, they opened Building 7. They opened Building 7, which in 1987, that was the halfway point to 9/11. And when they opened Building 7, it was 47 stories tall. What was the Hebrew year it opened? 1987 was Hebrew year 47. They knew that in another 14 years, they were going to bring down Building 7 and the rest of the World Trade Center. Now, we've covered those numbers, synchronicities on this channel before, but it's important to mention that the enemy is doing these rituals to basically try to mock the Most High, okay? So when people tell me they're absolutely sure Jesus died at 33 years old, I tell them, you don't know that for sure. Now, 33 is also, according to the Newton scale, the temperature at which water boils. There's a reason for that. That's not an accident. Also, the divine name Elohim appears 33 times in the story of creation in the opening chapters of Genesis. So I looked deeper into what Qasr Antar, this highest temple in the world, was really about. So I wanted to know. So I started digging this apart, and I started trying to look at the words of what this is, this Qasr and this Antar. Now, Qasr is kind of like a prefix word that's used across several of these temples. There's about 26 temples on the summit in the surrounding areas of Mount Hermon, but this one is the highest, so I decided to focus in on this. So I looked at Antar, and I was like, what is Antar? And I was like, that's Antares. So I looked at Antares, and lo and behold, this is the star Antares. Okay. Now, this is unbelievable because Antares, another name for it, is the Lord of the Seed. Now, we're going to get to the point of all this by the end of the show, because what the vesica Pisces really is the combination of the God seed and the serpent seed. And in the middle, where the union is the arch of Baal. This is the union between fallen angel and mankind, the vesica Pisces. And this is why you see this in Washington, D.C., surrounding the Washington Monument. These two circles represent cells merging together. We're going to get into that. But I looked into Antares, and it's also called the Lord of the Seed. That's what Antares is called. It's right here in this Wikipedia page. And for 2 to 3 weeks on either side of November 30th, it is not visible. It goes dark because it is too close to the sun and you can't see it. Well, lo and behold, November 30th, actually November 29th, the day before, is the 333rd day of the year. And of course, 11/3, November 30th, 11 times 3 is 33. So now you see that Antares also links in to Qasr Antar, the very location where these fallen angels came down from heaven to mix with the seed of women. Are you seeing how all this fits together? The vesica Pisces, the mixing of the fallen angels with the seed of man. This is their symbol. Then we see at the actual site that they have the vesica Pisces. This is where they mixed the two cells mixing together. What do these two cells look like? This is here, the vesica Pisces. This is it. It's two seeds mixed together. And now you know the ultimate truth. And this goes deeper because what you're really looking at right here is the Hill Valley. Casey, what is the Hill Valley? Hill Valley was mentioned in Back to the Future. Here's the hill in the valley, and this is it. When the first cell division occurs and the cell begins to pull apart or go together, you're seeing man and angel seed mixed together. And here is the Hill Valley. It is the eye. Here's the other cell over here. Let's put these side by side here so you guys can see what's going on. You are looking at these two images are one and the same. And when you look into the outside world, the material world, this belongs to the serpent. And God said, the kingdom of heaven is within. This is where you will find the ultimate truths, which is what we do on this channel. But the serpent wants you looking out into the material because that is where he will be able to deceive you. And this is one of the ultimate truths that no one else has looked at. This is it, you guys, the mixing of the seed. And they show it to us right here at the summit of Mount Hermon with this portion of the vesica Pisces formed by the road, as well as the golden ratio of this actual site. This is where they came down. Now, we're going to even get more specific after I go into the chat here, make sure we're still connected, because I'm going to show you guys something that is really going to blow you away. I went in to this program and basically I took this site and I overlaid it to the vesica Pisces, and look what I found. Now I just spun it around. That's all I did. It actually overlays the golden mean, the spiral mean, as well as one side of the vesica Pisces. This is unbelievable. And look at this. This is the cube. This is actually the temple that's at the site, but it also represents the cube. And this is how they keep us locked in. We're locked into this reality through the cube, the matrix, right? Now, this is interesting because when you look at where the center of this wall terminates, it terminates exactly into where this golden mean begins within the vesica Pisces. And as you can see, the rest of this fits in almost perfectly, with this square being in the upper corner of this. Let's turn this off and on so you guys can see. Okay, that's just it. This is the vesica Pisces with the golden ratio. And then when you toggle back and forth, there you see the truth. Now, no one else has done this before. All this research came about this afternoon. So I'm glad you guys all get to see this. Spread the word. I believe we found the answers to what's going on here. The mixing of the two seeds, the vesica Pisces. And that's why you see the Washington Monument with the giant phallus sticking up out of it, because that represents the serpent. And they worship the serpent, of course. Now, I'll be in the chat to answer questions that you guys may have, but I want to make sure we covered everything first. I think we got everything. So yes, the one eye represents the God seed womb, intersected with the serpent who sees or looks out of the womb into the material realm. And we just identified that as the Hill Valley, mentioned in Back to the Future, the vesica Pisces. And where it intersects is the convex lens. This is the intersection. This is the arch of Baal right here. This is what deceives us. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Here's some additional research I was doing on this. A little bit more information on this. Let's see here. So here they're talking about the actual site, Qasr Antar. Hermon is a truly commanding presence. that is considered a sacred mountain is exemplified in its Semitic root, HRM meaning taboo or consecrated, seen also in the Arabic al-Haram, sacred enclosure. The sacredness of Hermon, known throughout antiquity and in many different regions, has been compared to the inviolability of Mount Sinai, as described in Exodus, where the people are forbidden to go near the mountain or to ascend it. For whoever touched the mountain would be put to death. Eloquently expressed in the words of Claremont Ganneau, the Hermon became known as the Mountain of Oath. That its sacredness prevailed is also reflected in the writings of church fathers when, as late as the 4th century CE, Eusebius, in his Onomasticon, fully recognizes the long tradition of sacredness this mountain holds. Until today, the mount in front of Panias, we talked about Pan, and Lebanon is known as Hermon, and it is respected by nations as a sanctuary. Arab geographers wrote of the Hermon and Lebanon range, where the Hermon is known as the Jabal Sinir and defined as the mountain of snow. The summit of Mount Hermon is comprised of 3 peaks within a few hundred yards of each other, and together they form a comparatively level, oval-shaped plateau. There is your vesica Pisces, which is probably why they have this oval shape at the peak. Okay. I don't know if the 3 peaks are enclosed within this road or not, but they may be. And maybe this temple is within the center of this vesica Pisces. Let's keep reading here. It says the highest of these peaks is in the southwest, where the remains of a sacred enclosure of hewn stones surround what was once a temple structure known as Qasr Antar. Antares, right? In September 1869, Charles Warren reached the summit and made detailed notes of his observations, which he later submitted to the Palestine Exploration Fund. Curiously, none of his work is made public. I mean, unless you go to a library maybe, but I looked online and I could not find anything regarding this other than the same exact sentence that I just read to you. He describes finding the ruins of an unroofed rectangular building, the temple or saculum, which appeared to be of more recent date than the stone oval. Warren compared the stone oval to the Kaaba at Mecca and suggested it may well have been used for the same purpose. Among the limited finds from northwest of the oval was a stele of gray limestone incised with a Greek inscription. Now let's back up a minute, because as you know, the Kaaba at Mecca, they go around a cube. And guess what? They travel in the very same direction around the cube as the storm travels around the cube at the North Pole of Saturn. Yes, there is a cube at the North Pole of Saturn. It's a 3-dimensional cube. It presents as a hexagon is what it looks like. But the storm is moving in a direction, and the folks at Kaaba who worship, the Islamists who worship at that cube in those big crowds, they are moving around it in the exact same direction as the storm at the North Pole of Saturn. So now we're starting to develop a picture. Now they're telling us that this spiral is actually older than this building. But now we're starting to see who the evil father is of all this. Saturn, right? Keep reading this here. Where were we? So this keeps going. Let's close this. These are the 5 bones of the coccyx. Here's cell division, the eye. We covered all this. Okay. So this keeps going. He says he describes finding ruins in an unroofed rectangular building, the temple or saculum, which appeared to be of more recent date than the stone oval. We just looked at that. Warren compared the stone oval to the Kaaba at Mecca and suggested may well have been used for the same purpose. Among the limited finds from northwest of the oval was a steel gray limestone incised with a Greek inscription. Its removal from the summit was not without incident, and in the difficult process, it was broken into 2 pieces. It now rests in the British Museum, the two pieces once more together. Nicolsburg's translation of the inscription reads, and it's in Greek, but translated is, according to the command of the greatest and holy God, those who take an oath proceed from here. And that's exactly what the fallen angels did. They took an oath amongst each other. They proceeded from the mountain and took the form of men and took for themselves wives. Okay. Let's take a look here. See if there's anything else. I thought there was other stuff. They go on to talk about Baal worship, Baal Hermon, the Hittites, which of course were in battle with the Israelites in the Bible. The Israelites wiped out many of the Hittites. We know that Og was a giant. He had a bed that was twice the size of normal men. He was from Bashan. So we have numerous comparisons to other giants in the Bible. Bashan, Og of Bashan or Bashan. We have Baal. So, goes on to say here, in Aliquot's opinion, this oath fits well with the ancient traditions that characterized Mount Hermon as the mountain of oath, and also reflects a similar order restricting access to another holy mountain, that of Mount Carmel. Nicolsburg, however, notes two parallels to the Enoch tradition. First of all, suggests that the oath is reminiscent of the oath of the Watchers in Enoch 6:6, while the title of the greatest and holy God closely parallels a divine title in First Enoch, the Great Holy One, often rendered in Greek as the Great and Holy One. So, direct reference, the Great and Holy One, to this limestone stele that they found. That such an enclosure, as first reported by Warren, exists on the summit of Hermon lends credence to a long tradition of sacred high places and supports textual evidence for Hermon as a holy mountain. It also provides evidence for the endurance of people who must have made considerable effort to come and worship within such a harsh and cruel environment. So that's about it that I wanted to show you guys on that. And let's see if there's anything I forgot to mention. I got you guys all here. So that pretty much lays it out, you guys. This is the image. This is it. This is where they came down. And now we know a little bit more of pieces to the puzzle. Let me go in the chat, do a little Q&A for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. You guys, let's see here. Glad you guys could all make it. Have we got any trolls in here? If you guys want to call them out, I'll just go ahead and get rid of them right now. They changed the Mike says they changed the prime rating from Paris to England to hide the story of the fallen angels. Interesting. Like the days of Noah, says Justin in Buffalo. Yeah, we are right in it today. Now you know why the Freemasons love the number 33. We pretty much just laid it all out, okay? This is the number of the fallen angels. They run Washington, D.C. They have this incorporated into the design of Washington, D.C., the Washington Monument, and the vesica Pisces. Okay, this is it. There's Ozaro. We got Ozaro in the mod. Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate it. What else do we have here? Thanks, John. X-Ray, Big Brummy Dave. So who is mixed with the serpent? By now, by this point in history, most of us have some fallen angel DNA. God told the Israelites not to mix with the giants. He told them that in the Old Testament because they had to preserve the pure bloodline of Christ. They were the forefathers of Christ, so that he could offer his pure blood sacrifice to correct our blood. And this is why, if you look at the story of Solomon with the child, the two women with the child, and they were fighting over it, that story was all about the good seed and the bad seed mixed together. Okay? Satan wishes us all to be destroyed, but our Father in heaven would rather allow us to live in this realm and live and prove ourselves than destroy us. And that's how we know who our true father is. Just like the two women, The woman that wanted to preserve the life of the child, who was the real mother, said, let her have it. Let her have the child, rather than cut the child in half. And that's exactly what God has to do with us. He has to let the wheat and the tares grow up together. In other words, he has to let our mixed blood be born, live our life, and we have to choose good. Just like he told Cain, we have to choose good and Christ, of course. And at that point, Christ's blood corrects our blood symbolically and spiritually, and maybe even literally. I don't know. So I'm not a biologist. But God says he had to let the wheat and the tares grow up together, because if he pulled up the wheat, or if he pulled up the tares, he would pull up the wheat with it. That to me sounds like they're all mixed together, which is the true meaning of that parable. But the parable is always misunderstood because people don't want to look at the truth. So the fact that we're all probably mixed, or most of us, there is a remnant that was not mixed, but we don't know who those are. And it doesn't mean that we have any less of a chance to have salvation. But what it does mean is some of us that maybe are mixed with more of the fallen angel blood maybe have a propensity to want to sin more. And it may be a struggle. You may feel torn inside. But through the grace and belief in Jesus Christ, you were saved. So it's like not really a big deal. That's why some people attack this channel and they're like, Casey thinks we're all mixed with serpent blood. Okay, so, and the salvation plan is still the same. Doesn't matter what your blood is. Okay. So, and you can choose to believe that or not. To me, it provides the rest of the story when you dig deep and look. All right, I'm back in the chat. Glad you guys are all hanging in there. Let's see here. You guys that are here, that come to my website, just a reminder, please go to the website. I've talked to many of you on a personal level and told you how you can support the website without donating money. So please go do that after the show tonight. Can't really talk about it publicly. It's kind of, but this is what we've talked about it. So do what you can. Keep the website there for us so that we can have it to upload videos that may be taken down on YouTube. So we'll always have that. So I appreciate you guys doing that. And I'm looking in the chat. Let's see here. That's why they do the one-eyed symbolism. Exactly. Your eyes in your head represent the eyes of good and evil, the duality, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. One of your eyes is connected to your right eye is connected to your left brain, and your left eye is connected to your right brain. It crisscrosses in the middle. Jesus says, cast your net to the right side. That's the right brain. That is the Messiah brain. Okay. Let me show you that, just so you know I'm not making that up. Right brain thinkers. Jesus says, throw your net to the right side. But he also said, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. What did he mean? He's talking about your right eye and your right hand connected to your left brain. He's saying, cut off your left brain. All about the right brain, you guys. Right brain, Messiah. They even call it the Messiah complex. Your right brain. And they make fun of us. They mock us because they say people that are right brain thinkers are waiting for a Messiah to come save them. Here it is right here. I found this article a while back when I was researching some other stuff. When you began to look at the Bible the way it was supposed to be looked at, which is giving God all the credit for already knowing all of this scientific information, mathematics. That is the real God, not some dumbed down Adam and Eve, third grade God, which is what we're presented in church. That God is kind of stupid. That's what we're presented in church. God is amazing. And I'm trying to show that to you guys, that he knows the makeup and physiology of the brain, that he knows that the brain, that your eyes cross over from left to right. He knows that the crossing of the optic nerves at the center of your brain, because that's where his son was crucified. He knows all of this. And to write this off as just Casey making stuff up is basically denying that God has the ability and the mental processes to put all this in place in our Bible. Okay, so here it is. It says right brain dominant people believe that they need to rely on a deity, Messiah, or authority to save them. This is what Jesus was telling us. Cast your net to the right side. What is the net? The net is the neural pathways. Your brain looks like a net. It's a neural net. And so Jesus cast the brain. He cast it into the water, the net into the water, which is your cerebral spinal fluid in your brain. That's the water. Okay. To catch fish. Caught 153 fish. You ready to get your mind blown right now? Watch this. Because Jesus knew what the 153 was too, because he was amazing. Because 153 is part of the mathematic description of the vesica pisces, which is what we just looked at. Here you can see it with your own eyes, the vesica pisces. These are the 153 fish mentioned in your Bible. This is Jesus the fish, because he's going to reclaim his seed through his crucifixion. Reclaim the seed back away from the serpent. He's not going to allow this merging to happen. Okay. Here's the 153 fish Jesus caught in the net by casting it to the right side, the right brain, you see. I hope all this makes sense to you guys. There it is right there in plain sight. And too often people don't give God enough credit because they give us the dumbed down version so they can continue to control us, you see. Okay. What else do we have here? I'm in the chat. Let's see here. Whoa, what's the chat doing? Got some jokesters in here tonight. For those of you that like to joke, come over and subscribe to my comedy channel, which is called Read My Lips Dubbed Comedy. It's featured on the front of my YouTube page. Click on that. It's hilarious stuff, you guys. I'll be trying to do like one a week, maybe. Dub some people, some famous people. Put some words in their mouth. And so we could all laugh about this, because we got to laugh sometimes, you guys. Got to laugh. All right, here we go. I'm looking in the chat. Hopefully that all made sense. You guys have any questions about all this? Glad we didn't get interrupted on this live show tonight. I think I figured it out. One of the computers in the house was still connected to the Wi-Fi, even though it was closed. And I think it was sucking all our Wi-Fi out, and it was causing us to causing this to not really perform very well. So, all right, you guys. Looks like we got a taker on the comedy channel. Inspector Gadget's going to go and subscribe. Hopefully, all you guys can just subscribe just to support it, so I could kind of branch out and do some other things. The fishing channel is kind of on hold because really haven't been fishing. It's been really cold. As soon as I get out fishing, as soon as I get a GoPro or some kind of camera, I'll be doing some more filming. Thanks, Maddie. Maddie liked the Trump parody. That's cool. I try not to take all this stuff too seriously, because in the end, God is in complete control. Okay. And all that matters at the end of the day is what's in your heart, the kind of person you are. Yes, we all make mistakes, but if you can just believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and have love in your heart, you'll be saved. That's it. but it is kind of neat to dig into some of this stuff and find the truth, because it helps build our faith, helps us get more personal with our Creator and His Son, understand that He's real. When you start seeing some of the proof behind some of this stuff, you really understand that it's real. And then all of a sudden your faith is strengthened, okay? Because you see that the Bible is corroborated. Now it's interesting because the book of Enoch, actually the only copies from antiquity, in other words, the only copies from before BC, before Christ walked the earth, 3 to 500 BC, are in private hands and are unavailable to scholars. In other words, no one has actually laid eyes since 1947 on these ancient manuscripts of the book of Enoch, which, by the way, were found with the complete Hebrew Bible, found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. But the Bible scholars of the time never bothered to add the book of Enoch back into the scriptures. They did not believe it was inspired, even though it was found with a complete set of the rest of the scriptures. Why wouldn't they update the Bible? Because they don't want you to know that they rule the world. Plain and simple, you guys. They want you to think the book of Enoch is either a myth, or it's not real, or it was recent. No, there is an ancient copy in private ownership that no one has access to. And I would like to see that copy. I would like to see it. All right, you guys. Got some things to do tonight. Go ahead and cut you guys loose. Glad many of you were able to make the show tonight. Looks like the word got out. We had a big crowd, one of our bigger crowds. And I appreciate the fact that you guys hunger for the truth. I'm going to get off here. Good night. Take care and be safe, you guys.